Sonic Frontiers is coming up on its 1-year anniversary, and since it was released, we have learned so much about the game's development, along with numerous pieces of cut content. From the original massive Kronos Island to unused enemies to even completely scrapped island concepts, there's a lot about Frontiers that just simply didn't make the cut. And I know you've probably heard about the Beta Kronos Island numerous times by now, because let's be real, it's freaking awesome how this island used to be so much larger than what it ended up being. But what about the other islands? Apart from Kronos, we also have Ares and Chaos, which I truly believe had much more planned for them in the past. So in this video, we're going to be uncovering the unused versions of Ares and Chaos Island, their story arcs, and even what they could have initially looked like. But before we get into it, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. We've all been there. You're playing your favorite Nintendo Switch game with a pair of Joy-Cons, and we can both agree that Joy-Cons just aren't very comfortable, but it's the only option you have because official Nintendo Switch Pro controllers are just way too expensive. Well, fear not, my friends, because that's where the Nixie Chaos comes in. The Nixie Chaos is a wireless controller for the Nintendo Switch that offers just as many features as your standard Pro controller. Along with including gyro, rumble, and even RGB lighting with 3 different modes, it also includes programmable back buttons for maximum accessibility. And to top it all off, it's nearly half the price of an official Pro controller. And who knows, maybe Pro controllers just aren't your thing. Well, Nixie also has numerous other controllers to choose from, including the Wizard, which gives you that authentic GameCube controller feel. Sounds great, right? Well, head over to the link in the description and use code SF at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase on any Nixie products. And thank you so much to Nixie for sponsoring this video. Alright, let's get into it. Exactly how different were these islands in the early stages of their conceptualization? Well, in the final game, they're much larger than the new version of Kronos, which makes sense because one of the reasons why Kronos was split up in the first place was because it was really massive. However, the old version of Kronos is still way bigger than Ares and Chaos Island in the final game. This leads me to believe that both islands were much larger than what we see in the final game. Now, do I think that the islands had huge chunks removed before the game was released? No, definitely not. Instead, I just believe that the islands were just shrunk down a lot to cut out a lot of the fluff. This means that the original islands would have probably had similar layouts but just on a much bigger scale. And there's also proof of this exact concept in the actual game. Let's just start with Ares Island. Even by looking at the map, we have all of this blank space around the outskirts of it. It looks like there could have easily been terrain that was placed here at one point. Also, we can see from the early concept art of Ares that there were originally supposed to be many more canyons and formations to explore. Imagine if this island was more populated with canyons and whatnot that filled up the map's empty space. That would have been awesome. It would have at least made Ares Island feel less empty, which is definitely an issue in the final game if you ask me. But let's just move on to Chaos. There is a lot more proof that Chaos was originally supposed to be bigger compared to the information we have about Ares. One thing that always stood out to me about Chaos Island was that it had multiple different biomes merged into one. We have the lava area and the ice area, and both of those were pretty significant in size. But we also had this one very obscure area that was made up of these hexagon platforms. Why is this here? Do you really want me to believe that they've just put this stuff here for decoration? No, I don't think so. There's also this one very tiny area that has a grassy aesthetic. Again, why? I mean, if this area was once meant to be larger, then that would make perfect sense. Just look at the map of Chaos Island. There's this one empty space that could have easily housed an extension of this area. There are actually numerous empty areas like this. We all know that Chaos is split into multiple islands, but what if that empty space was once filled with more terrain? That would actually make a lot of sense considering that most other aspects of Chaos were obviously rushed. And we haven't even discussed the concept art yet. What the f is going on here? I know concept art is often not 100% accurate to the final game, but there's just so much here that just needs to be discussed. We can actually slightly see some of the grassy area here, so even early on, that was a pretty significant part of Chaos Island's design. But we can also see that big temple structure that's in the final game, but this time there's a Titan being constructed in it. What? This adds a lot to the story. It shows that at one point, Chaos was considered to be sort of a factory that the ancients used to build the Titans. That's kinda crazy. Sonic Frontiers was really lacking a lot of connection between the islands in the actual story, but aspects like this would have fixed that issue. And honestly, I think this would have been a really cool set piece, even if it didn't have anything to do with the story. But oh well. So if all of these things were true at one point, then what would that mean for the game as a whole? Well, it would have been absolutely massive. If all of the islands were double in size, then Frontiers would have been a significantly larger game. Top it off with a completely unique 4th island, and you definitely have the most ambitious Sonic game yet. It kinda makes me sad how we never got to see all of this come to fruition, but at least we have select remnants of what these islands once looked like. And it's kind of crazy to me how there was so much planned for this game that never saw the light of day, only because of time constraints. I already talked about Beta Kronos a million times because we just had a lot of info on that, but as for Ares and Chaos, all we have is some concept art that was officially released before Frontiers launch, but other than that, we have nothing. So until more stuff comes out about these islands, that's really all we know about the beta versions of Chaos and Ares. But that's going to end this video, everyone. I really hope you all enjoyed some more CUD content of Sonic Frontiers, and let me know if you want to see more videos like this, because I really enjoy making them. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.